Dimitris, are you there?
Yes, ready to start.
Ah, perfect. And I'm just getting it live, so here we go.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And we start recording, right? Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining today. I guess the majority among you join using YouTube. That's great, actually. Thanks a lot for using YouTube, but I see also a few people joining through Zoom. So maybe would you like to share from where you joined today? I can say hello from Poland, from Krakow. All right. So Singapore, India. Great. Okay, good. So let me share my slides and we can start. Today we're going to talk about the digital platforms X factor. Digital platforms is a very important important business model that companies keep discovering the last few years. And some companies, they are on the way of getting transformed from using the pipeline business model to a digital platforms business model, but also the majority of the companies, they use it as an additional business model. So this is a great actual opportunity many times to create a lake or a sea where we can float all the boats, all the different providers of services and products that they can provide eventually those services and products to customers that they need the products and services. And of course, there are so many different kind of digital platforms. This is a business model that creates quickly very high valuation. And this is the main reason why I can see the last 15 years that the majority of startups, instead of creating a new product or creating a new service, they start with a digital platform business model, a marketplace or a community. Because if they succeed, they can have very high valuation. So the reality, if we have a look at media, and maybe before that, very quickly to introduce myself, although I believe that the majority of you have already the chance to know me and know my profile. I've been many years in business, mainly as an executive, but also entrepreneur. More than 10 years, the last years as a consultant, more than 20 years experience in digital transformation programs. I also have more than 10 years academic experience. I've been moving all my life for the last 35 years from country to country. And I have my own consulting company or business advisory, which is called axiocentric. And that means value-centric, using axiocentric from ancient Greek. So I play many different roles, and I'm also the author of the book Leading and Succeeding in Dynamic Ecosystems by Mastering the Art of Isoropin. And Isoropin, coming also from ancient Greek, means asymmetrical, multidimensional dynamic balancing, or MAD balancing. And this is very important in business. We don't use the word balance very often in business, and I believe the main reason is because in English it sounds passive. It's not very dynamic. So this is why I try to revive the word balance by introducing the word isoropin, which means actually multidimensional asymmetrical dynamic balancing, and this is more appropriate for business people. So when we learn and when we read media or watch media, it looks like digital platform business model is the recipe to succeed. So most of the times we see a lot of heroes that they come up with an idea, they find usually somebody to fund the idea, and eventually it's all about burning, let's say, the investment, burning the money very quickly and grow and win and eventually achieve very high valuation, and everybody is successful, everybody is rich in the company. And this is what I call hero syndrome that we will see later on. It creates some challenges for many business people that they think like that. So it sounds like, you just come up with an idea and very quickly you can succeed. And that creates what I call platform mania, especially among startups. Certainly, using the digital platform business model is a great opportunity that everybody needs to consider. That's no question about that. But there is some discrepancy between perceptions or myths and the reality. And I would like to start with that. So if I look to the perceptions, what I hear, what I discuss actually in the market, is that digital platforms, because it's digital, it's all about technology. So it's how you can come up with a smart application and you can conquer the whole world like many others did. The other thing is that honestly, it's very easy to attract providers or manufacturers of products that to sell their products or their services to others because everybody wants to sell. Providers and sellers and customers, we think like they're going to work only with our platform, not with other platforms. Once they join our platform, they will stay with ours, especially if we are a pioneer and our platform is something unique in an industry. And then also the feeling is that usually that should be low investment new venture because we use resources and assets of others to generate business, and that means it's low risk. Another perception is that honestly, you don't even need to get profitable. You can see so many companies, Uber is probably the best example, that while they still are in red, losing money, their valuation keeps growing and they keep growing and being successful. And that it's all about speed. So don't overthink about that. Don't think about rules, regulations, compliance, etc. Just go quickly, cut corners, whether you are a bit illegal, that's fine, because the first wins and takes it all. And to succeed, you need to be young, digitally born, because this is the generation that really understands digital platforms. And as I said earlier on, cutting corners, going quickly, fake it till you make it, that's the way to succeed. And eventually, you need to use this business model because that's the recipe to succeed in new digital era. And to a great extent, those perceptions are right, but not absolutely right, because when we look to the reality, to succeed, technology is not enough. Everybody has access to technology. That's it's a commodity. It's about providing a strong value proposition, providing a great customer experience, and we will talk about that later on. It's more about people, culture, mindset, and also technology to help you, to enable you to do whatever you want to do. Now, when it comes to providers and sellers, I have to be honest with you. In the majority of the markets, the established successful sellers or manufacturers or providers are not happy with marketplaces because marketplace usually commoditize your role in the market. If you sell a product or you sell a service, you try to tell everybody that I'm special. And this is why maybe you have to pay a premium to me. I have unique selling points. Marketplaces, when they come, if I may oversimplify it, but this is the reality, they try to say, okay, here are 1,000 or 10,000 providers. Somehow they all provide the same product or the same service. Pick one of them to do whatever you want. So they create a kind of commoditization and many times additional competition, disruption. So if you are, let's say, a hairdresser in a city or a town where there is no marketplace for hairdressers yet, and you are well established, you have your clientele, they know you, maybe you have more customers than your capacity. When you see a marketplace coming, what happens is they will create additional competition. Maybe your customers will find out other hairdressers that they are as good as you or maybe better at a better price. They are around the corner. Maybe they never discover them. And at the end of the day, the marketplace, to send you maybe the same customers, they start asking you for a commission, 10%, 20%, whatever. So you don't like it. Unless, of course, you want to grow, to have more locations, etc. Usually, the digital platform, when it comes to an industry, is not welcome by the established players. Eventually, they might have to work with the marketplace once the marketplace is established, but be aware that the best and the most successful usually they will not join, or if they join, they will not be happy to help you. Now, the reality is that everybody who will join your marketplace, sooner or later, they will wish to see competitors because this is the best way for them to maintain a better business, having low dependability on your marketplace. So even if you are unique at the very beginning, your participants will wish and they will help any competitor that might come. And while to a great extent it's true that you don't need to set up manufacturing sites and logistics, etc., to sell something, that's true. It's low investment. Still, you need to invest because you need people. You need excellent talents that they will help you to use technology smartly and succeed. If you don't have those people, it's very unlikely that you can execute your plans. And if you are an established player already and digital platform business model is on top of what you do already, that has sometimes high risks. Because if you create, for example, a marketplace next to your business and you invite competitors, it might create cannibalization of your existing sales, or eventually, no matter what you do, if you are successful, probably you will have tenths and hundreds of competitors copycatting whatever you do. So there is platform commoditization. And while maybe you don't need to get profitable to succeed, still you need somebody to pay your expenses. I don't know, a rich uncle or a VC that they really believe in you no matter how much you lose right now. So to be able to continue, you need somebody who believes in you, even if you burn money. And many marketplaces, they can take sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 years to become profitable. And yes, that's great actually if you come up with an idea to execute it fast, because the first many times succeed, but this is not always the case. We see, for example, if we think about social media, Facebook was not the first one who came up with the idea of creating social media like Facebook. You had others that they came up with this idea a few years before, like 6 Degrees, like Friendster, like MySpace. But Facebook, being much later than them, they still got almost everything. So you can see that it's not just coming up with a great idea, but executing well and providing a great experience to your customers. And yes, if you are digitally born, probably you understand the behavior and mindset of younger people right now. That's true, but many times we have seen the digitally born and the smart and uh, very powerful organizations like Google, for example, failing even to compete versus Facebook a few years ago with Google+. There was no space in social media for another competitor next to Facebook. There was, but still you can fail. And of course, if you are nobody and you are $1 or £1, let's say, company, maybe you don't care so much about compliance and regulations. But if you are an established organization, you don't take the risk, because you're going to face penalties and you might face major challenges for your existing operation. So it's not easy to disregard legal risks or reputation risks and disregard compliance. So it's very important to play according to the rules, which is not always so easy. Now, the reality is that, well, while it's not necessarily the gold mine to succeed, is a great idea always to consider, because in case you are successful when you take the first steps, it's very fast to scale. It can create very high valuation. So that's what I wanted to share with you about the reality versus perceptions and myths about digital platform business model. There are many different flavors and there are many different colors of and types and forms of digital business model. For example, the most typical we think about is a marketplace. It can be B2B, like Alibaba. It can be B2C, maybe like Amazon. It can be C2C, maybe part of eBay or many others as well. Or it can be a community, peer-to-peer, right? Where you share, let's say, second-hand clothing or whatever. You sell it or you share or whatever. So it can be a marketplace where you sell something like a product, a service or whatever. It can be a community. You can come to the market sometimes simply to create efficiencies. For example, OpenTable, when they came to the market of restaurants, they didn't come to create additional competition. So they were welcome to have a marketplace, practically a functionality for booking a restaurant and using the same look and feel, no matter which restaurant you want to get. And of course, a list of restaurants over there. So it was not really disrupting the market. And if you come up with such an idea to provide, I don't know, preventive maintenance in manufacturing sites, etc., you might be very welcome to the market instead of having the market going against you. So if you boost value, if you boost efficiencies instead of creating additional competition, you will be welcome. On the other side, if you come up with an idea like Airbnb or Uber, where you join the mobility market or the hospitality market, and suddenly you create competition, additional capacity, competition, pricing competition practically, etc., you will not be welcome. So you will face more challenges. They will try to push you back as much as possible. You can be transaction focused sometimes, and that's by far easier to set up, but also by far easier for anybody to copy. So Uber, for example, Uber for mobility is very much transaction focused. You don't need to think so much about what kind of what type of car I want to use, what will be the color, how big it is. Maybe it can be important, how large it is, what is the personality of the driver, whatever. So you don't need to think so much about that. You want to go from here there, assuming that this is safe. Then you want to know two things: how long it will take the car to come here and how much it costs. And then it's just transaction. You book it and will be there. It's different, of course, if you create a marketplace, which is decision making or decision focused marketplace. So if you take Airbnb, this is much more about deciding in which place in this city or in this region I'm going to stay, maybe with my family. Do I want to have a house? Do I want to have a garden? I prefer to have a flat. Is it at the third floor? Is there a lift? What is the ambience? Do I need a kitchen? Do I need a view to the sea? Whatever. There's so many different dimensions to consider to decide this versus another 1,000 different alternatives. And in that case, of course, the marketplace needs more effort to organize all this complexity but it is also by far more difficult for any other marketplace to copy you. So that's a different kind of types of marketplaces that they need different approaches to succeed and different speed, honestly, also to succeed. Then many of the the platforms we talk about, they have as main target to generate business for the investors, for the entrepreneurs, and profit. But also there are more and more platforms that they are there to help the society, to help to fight poverty, to provide easier parking maybe in cities, in smart cities, to be more eco-friendly. So this is where you try to bring different participants, government, organizations, business, and try to provide value, not necessarily additional sales and additional profit. So there, the way that we measure success will be different, and the way that we engage also participants will be different comparing to a commercial purpose marketplace. Then again, if you want to create a completely new marketplace comparing to what you do, let's take as an example, you are maybe BMW, and you come up with an idea to create a marketplace for the furniture industry. You're not there, you are in mobility, you manufacture cars, right? But you say, why not to disrupt IKEA and create additional business? So there are some value because you go over there, nobody will see you as a competitor. On the other side, you don't know the market, you start from scratch, you don't have customers, you don't have providers, you need to start from the beginning. And it's different, of course, if you already have an established business, you have some customers, and then you invite providers like the Amazon marketplace. So Amazon, when they did that, they were an established e-tailer having millions of customers buying from them. So what they said is, I create a marketplace, I have the consumers, now I invite you, my competitors, to come to compete with me or to provide additional products and services that probably I don't have right now. So that's maybe easier many times to do it, or to do it add-on on your business. But sometimes also it's more difficult because they might see you as a competitor, and your key competitors probably they will not join at the very beginning. Different opportunities, different challenges. It's also different if you want to create a business that in order to succeed needs to be global. So if you think about Airbnb, in hospitality industry, usually you don't want to book a place in your region or in your city. You want to go to another city, maybe to another region, maybe to another country. So in order to succeed in this business, you need eventually to become international or global. And it's by far easier, of course, if you want to create a marketplace for your local business in your city. It's much easier to set it up over there and manage the regulations. Different ways of considering how to succeed, and different KPIs and different speed of taking the next steps. And of course, different also to create a marketplace for the real world. This is what we know most of the time. and different to create a marketplace for metaverse, for the virtual world, to sell real estate, to sell cars, to sell clothing, to sell whatever, jewelry, etc. over there. Because metaverse maybe did not become as big as Meta thought few years ago, but it's still there, and this is a market that is going to keep growing for the future. It's different to help people acquire new services and products for their second or third life in metaverse or for the gaming, let's say, era. And of course, it's different again. One more example. If you come up with an idea that does not exist in your industry, so you are the pioneer, and it's completely different if somebody else already created a marketplace or a digital platform in an industry, and you come and you try to copy them and take part of the business that they already created. Different approach, and we will cover this topic as well later on about the value proposition. So what I want to say here is very naive if we try to talk about digital platform business model and we think that we can use the same approach and we can set the same KPIs and we can have the same expectations and aspirations, and we will face exactly the same challenges for the different types of platforms in the different geographical regions and for the different industries. So the reality is, no, every digital platform, any idea has its own challenges, and we need to address it differently. Of course, as you can imagine, I would never invite you to come to a webinar to talk about the X factor for digital platforms if the answer was, it depends. Tell me your platform and I will tell you what you need to do. No, there are some common principles that if you follow them, you have high chance to succeed. And we talk about the X factor. And as we said earlier on, there are different ways of succeeding for all those different digital platforms. And success could look differently for different people and for different platforms. Sometimes it can be about profit and growth. Sometimes it can be valuation. Sometimes it can be customer experience, the way that we measure success, or value to the society, no matter what we want to achieve. So success also can have many different definitions. And this is why it's important to define also the purpose and define the success when we talk about many different digital platforms. So what's the X factor? And here I have to say that this X factor, what I will share with you today, it comes from more than 15 years of working either managing digital platforms or most of the years advising companies that either they launched a platform or they plan to launch a platform. And the majority of the companies, or I would say all companies, they are not startups. They are well-established businesses that usually they reach out to me, they knock the door and they say, we launched our platform 1 or 2 years ago and doesn't go so well. So could you have a look and discuss how we can make it successful? So what I will share with you today is based on this experience of established organizations that they started a digital platform additionally to what they do, and it didn't go well. So this is based on my advice and the results also that I see with many of them later on. So what I've seen with all my clients is that most of them, the way that they came up with the idea for the platform, it was, okay, somebody came up with an idea, and eventually after some discussions, they decided to allocate budget to launch this idea. That makes sense, right? And eventually they created a grand opening where they invited not only people from the company, but also journalists, media, etc., to talk about the idea that they have and what they plan to launch and the aspiration they have about conquering the whole world. And what they did then is they set up the technology and they launched the digital platform. And it didn't go well. So here they had also this kind of hero syndrome. They wanted to become the first to announce this unique idea. All my clients, they were not followers. They were pioneers, or they are pioneers in their industry. And they wanted to talk about that before anybody else come up with the idea. It was much more about saying that we are innovative. We have great ideas, and this is what we're going to do. So here, I would like to say, first of all, this is based on my experience, the X factor for failure. Because what happened is, it didn't work for all my clients, and this is why they ask actually for help. And it didn't work the first 5 or 6 months. They started putting more money over there. They got stressful because they had announced that not only internally but externally. Everybody was asking them, how is it going? They felt uncomfortable to say that's a failure. They made the team that was responsible for the digital platform stressful. They started taking many different actions without analyzing what was going on, without taking the time to experiment and try different ways of doing things. So it was actually bad that they went out and they announced their idea. Now, I understand that sometimes they do it because for an established company, this is the way to say, I'm innovative. It's great actually for publicity. But if you don't feel the urgency for publicity to create buzz, it's much better to not announce it. Don't shout. Do more and shout less. Give your team and yourself the luxury to work under the radar for a period of time, to try different ways of the idea that you have, to see what works, what does not work, what they need to change. Maybe they will understand that the idea is not a good idea and they need to close it down. Why not? That's part of the business. You don't need to feel ashamed about that. But if you make the big announcement, you have a problem. So my strong recommendation to everybody that has an established business already and come up with an idea for an additional digital platform is, don't make a big fuss before you feel confident that it will become a success. And then you can decide whether you want to start talking about that, because automatically you will invite a lot of competition, or you want to give it a bit more time to get established, and that will be the time that competition will have more difficulty to copy you. So my point is, do more, experiment more, learn from that more, and shout less. So that's the X factor for failure based on my experience with more than 20 clients. So the first question I ask my clients, and that's important for all of you if you think about digital platform, is why you did it. Because all of them, they've been very successful and very profitable on selling products and services. And many of them, they had to scratch their head, and the majority, what they said is, we saw that as an additional opportunity. So we sell this, we have those sales and profit today, but inviting additional providers to sell complementary products and services, or even our competitors were not strong in any product. We thought, why not? We can make a business, a commission out of this. And that makes sense. That's great. So it's not about changing your model from A to B. An additional opportunity maybe it can cannibalize part of your business, but the opportunity is bigger. That makes sense. Some of them, they accepted that it's not critical for their business. They do it because a vice president came up with this idea, and that's a kind of playground, let's say, for executives. That can help with experimentation, cultural change, to try something new, a venture, instead of just inviting startups. They can come up and they can try a new idea. So not critical for their business, but that's great actually for their executives to experiment. And that's great actually for cultural change, moving from the 20th to 21st century. Great. That means if you succeed, it's great. If you fail, it's fine as well. It's a learning, right? Only two of my customers that they came with a very well thought out plan, where they said our industry is going to change and our role in the industry is going to change as well. So we have a mid-range plan, 5 years plan, where we believe that if we continue selling what we do, even if we increase our market share, our business is going to decline. So we need to consider how to grow. And the only way to grow is to consider more than our industry, similar industries. So we need to start it, because that will generate part of our business 3 years or 5 years from today. And this is the plan. So this is important for our future. It's not for today, but that's for the future. It's very important to clarify why you do it. Your board of directors, and of course your CEO, etc., your presidents and vice president, all of them, they should know why you do it. It's very, very important, because many times I've seen leaders leaving the company because they found a better job somewhere else or anything else, and together with them to stop the project, because the new leader comes on board and they kill the babies of the previous one. And that happens many times, exactly the time that the digital platform business model is about to flourish, after 18 months, after 2 years. And they stop it because it's not profitable, it does not bring, what you expect. So it's very, very important to clarify why you do it. And it's not only you as a vice president or president or even CEO that you should believe on this, but also your key stakeholders, investors, the board. They should understand, so that if you go away tomorrow, this should not necessarily stop your business. That's important, the purpose, because the purpose also help us to clarify two things. One, it was expectations. Okay, don't start complaining about something that did not flourish in 6 months if it's nothing so important for your business. So you experiment, you try, that's okay. And as we said, that's not so important for you. Or on the other side, if it is important to build the future, then you have higher expectations. And if you have higher expectations, you should put also higher resources on board. And what I mean with higher resources, I don't mean necessarily only more budget. Because probably you're not surprised that many of those executives, they have high expectations and they put for the new ventures very low resources. The most important resource you need, if this is important for you to succeed, is people. And what I've seen in most cases is that this new venture does not have a fully dedicated, successful executive to make it happen. Normally, they give it as a pet project to an existing executive. So that can be 5 or 10% of their role or their time. And if it goes well, that's fine. He can get all the credit. If it does not go very well, at the end of the day, 90% it depends from the business as usual. No, you need an executive to put the skin actually to this over there, because it's not easy. Most of the time it's not easy. So you need to dedicate an executive, and that's automatically, of course, a budget, because a great person is usually expensive. So you need a great leader to manage it, and not just 5% of a great leader or somebody that you found to be enthusiastic about that, but not having necessarily the competencies to make it successful. So we start with that. It's very important whether you have a clear purpose and that help you to find the right balance, isορροπήν, to balance expectations and resources. That's the beginning. And this is important because many times you need more than 2 or 3 years to see success with digital platforms. And you want the company to keep investing and supporting it, even if the president, vice president, CEO, whatever is in charge, leaves the company and somebody else who might not be always so enthusiastic comes on board. So that's very important. Now let's go to the other important part. It's about value proposition. When you create a marketplace, no matter what marketplace it is, you need to provide a strong value proposition, because that will become the magnet to attract providers and to attract consumers. If you don't have a strong value proposition, if you don't have some of the providers or then some of the consumers, they are both customers of the platform. you don't have some of them that they get enthusiastic about your value proposition, don't do it. You will fail. Anything else, design, launching, monetization, governance, it's useless if you don't have a strong value proposition. If you don't have a customer. To have business, you need a customer, somebody who wants to buy from you, a product, a service, something, right? So having a strong value proposition is very, very important. And to my surprise, my clients, although they have very smart, well-educated executives, they didn't put enough thought to the value proposition. And I will tell you what I mean with that later on. It needs, to conceptualize it, first of all, to come up with the idea. And to be successful with that, you need empathy. Empathy, you should understand very well the providers, customers, and the consumers, customers. You need to invest some time to understand them well. If you don't understand those prospects, potential customers, you cannot create a strong value proposition unless you are lucky, unless you are super talented, etc. So empathy is important, and together with empathy is the design thinking. So if you have empathy, you understand the challenges they face, the problems they face, the solutions that they need eventually. And design thinking is focusing on the problems, the challenges that they face, causation from where they come, what are the alternatives to solve this problem. Is about loving the problem. You need this design thinking methodology, loving the problem and not loving your idea how to solve it. So that's very important as well. And eventually, no matter how good you are with empathy and design thinking, you never know whether it will fly or not. So before you start burning a lot of money launching and announcing your new business, it's much better to create a minimum viable platform and set it up as with few participants, or maybe go local before you go international and global. Create a prototype, test it, learn from this, take the next steps or don't take the next steps, calibrate it, change it. Unfortunately, it's not always so easy that every idea is going to fly. You need to test it. This is the best way before you go on and you start running it as a business. Here, the big challenge that all organizations face, it was leadership mindset. In most of the cases, they were overconfident, exactly because the organizations have been successful in selling products or services for many, many years. They thought that with any idea they will come with a marketplace, automatically will be successful, which is not the case. So here we need leadership, leaders, humans, that they are more humble. They try to understand the customers. They are ready to experiment and test before they launch something. Maybe it sounds like common sense, but it looks like many super smart and talented people do not use this common sense going forward. And here I would like to share with you a methodology that I applied many, many years with many different workshops and works very well to come up with a better value proposition. So first of all, you need to reflect about your customers. Let's think about providers. As we say, for many marketplaces, it's important to attract good providers, because if you don't attract good providers, first of all, if you don't attract providers, you have nothing to sell. If you attract bad providers, you have a bad product to sell, not a good idea. It's important to attract good providers. How you attract good providers to come to your marketplace? First of all, you need to think like you are the provider. So forget about your idea and think about you being the provider. So let's say you want to create a marketplace where you are the owner of car repair workshops, and you want to provide services to car owners or to truck owners, whatever. So you are the provider, you are the owner of a car repair workshop. This is how you start thinking. So imagine my business as a owner of a car repair workshop. How do I sell? I'm in a village or in a town or in a city, right? How I think, how I wake up every day, what are my challenges? Is it about having the right people in my team? Is it more about how I attract, let's say, new customers? What kind of business I have? Is it 10,000 per month? Is it 100,000? How much profit I make? Think about that. Usually it should take you a week, but many times I run that as a workshop for just 2 hours. And even people who did not know very well the market could use their judgment, their intuition, their imagination, and come up with a profile. How do I think, feel as a owner of repair workshops? And then maybe you go to internet and you find additional information to test your imagination, right? Reports, articles. Maybe you can visit some of them. You can see how it looks like over there. You can have some discussion with them, not to sell your idea, but to understand how they think, what their challenges. You need to do that. That's very important. And also, what you realize going forward is that not all the owners of repair workshops are the same. Different people, they have different priorities in different cities. Some of them, the problem is how to find technicians, good technicians to manage the small capacity I have. Somebody else is ambitious and wants to increase the business. They are different, and you need to consider different personas eventually. But right now, you think as the owner of repair workshops. And then, if you are the owner of a repair workshop, how is the business? It's increasing, growing. What are the challenges? What is the customer journey? Your customers who come to you. Segmentation, SWOT analysis. Maybe many of them, they don't do it, but try to do it, because that helps you to understand the problems, the issues, prioritize also the problems, what is critical, what is less important. And then you try to make a list of problems, what is the pain that they face, what is the root cause, how you prioritize according to importance, maybe for different segments there are different importance, recognize the need or the pain, or maybe it's unconscious need and pain that they did not recognize. That's maybe it will help your idea later on. Try to have a holistic view of how they think, because then you can consider the different solutions, how they solve their problems today, how they can solve the problems tomorrow. Maybe one of the solutions could be your idea, but probably will not be the only one. You need to go through all this and eventually to come up with what could be a strong value proposition to help them solve something which is important for them, and how you will articulate it to them. Will you go to them like, unfortunately, many of my clients did, like the big boss, to say, I will come here as a marketplace and I will do all this and you will sell and buy from others and you will pay me also a tax, a commission out of this? Or will you go to say, I'm here to help you grow your business, improve your efficiency. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you. Very, very humble, without big announcements, etc. And of course, by helping you to solving your problem, I would expect also to make some money for this so that I can keep helping you forever. So how you articulate it also, it's very, very important. You have to go through all this to come up with a strong value proposition for this specific segment of providers that probably will love your value proposition, and do this as well for the consumers, for this specific segment of consumers that they need a marketplace or digital platform like the one you're going to offer them. You need to go through this for a strong value proposition, to conceptualize it. If you do that, then, and very, very important, when you do it, forget about your idea and your company. You should be, when you do it, you should be the provider, the seller, or the buyer, the consumer, not the role that you play in your company, because that's the only way to analyze with the least bias, not being very biased when you do that. Now, if you do all that, then you can create a realistic business plan where you think about your company, about the strengths and weaknesses you have, the positioning you're going to take versus other alternatives they have, alternative strategies, and decide which one is best to follow, what resources you need. This is the time to think about design, launch, monetization, etc., because you came up with an idea that is strong to a segment of customers and segment of customers, consumers, and customers, providers. Maybe you can come up with different scenarios. Let's say the optimistic scenario, the less optimistic scenario, the P&L, the cash flow, how long it will take you to become profitable. And this is the time to go and ask for funding, either internally or externally. Try to keep a good balance between being enthusiastic for the opportunity, but also managing expectations so that people do not get disappointed if you don't deliver according to the plan. They can still stay supportive to you later on. And this is also the time, once you get the first money, to test it, to decide the level of minimum viable platform, how minimum or how maximum is going to be. You need some resources to launch it, to test it, to calibrate it, to change it. And that's an iterative process. And then you need to decide whether you're going to take the next steps to launch it. You need to change completely your idea because it does not work. Or maybe you need to stop it as well. So you need, if you are here, and I suppose you are here to learn methodologies, this is a great actually 7-step iterative method because it's not going always from one step to the next. You come back as well many times to create a strong value proposition and test it before you launch it. That's very, very important. If you don't have a strong value proposition, it's very unlikely you will ever succeed. It's possible, but unlikely. We have seen many people that they are talented, excellent entrepreneurs, that they come up with an idea without going through all this method, probably without going through this or a similar method, they can become successful. But the majority do not. So go through this to have a strong value proposition. And if I may oversimplify what is the value proposition that people ask, I will come back to this very, very quickly. What I want to say is this is a great approach if you come up with an idea that does not exist yet in an industry, if you are a pioneer. So if you are a pioneer, you need to follow this platform design thinking and test it with a minimum valuable product to provide a strong value proposition and later on a great customer experience. However, if it exists already and you are a follower, you don't have to go through this because you can learn from existing platforms already. You can become one of the participants, and this is more about mystery shopping. It's more about analyzing what is going on. You can still use this platform design thinking to find the problems of your competitors, of established players over there, and then decide what will become your unique selling point to be able to attract some of the providers and some of the customers to come to you instead of using the current business. So it's a different approach if you are a pioneer and you start something from the beginning, it does not exist, and different approach if you copy somebody that exists maybe somewhere in the world, because maybe it's pioneering in your country, but you might see similar cases in other countries and you can learn from them. To close this first part, which is the value proposition, usually when we talk about value proposition, a marketplace should provide certainly more choice than what a consumer, let's say, could find today without a marketplace, or more choice of consumers to a provider than what they can find without the marketplace. So that's what you bring as a strong value proposition. And this is what both sides probably will appreciate. This is what typically most of the marketplaces bring as a value proposition. The other part that everybody knows, but very few are doing, is you need to make the whole process of, let's say, for the consumers of selecting a provider by far easier and faster than what is today. You need to make the whole process easier and faster. And I see many marketplaces doing it as difficult as it is to use Google maybe to look for providers. So you need to manage all this complexity of features and prices and quality and availability to provide perfect matching, excellent recommendation, excellent curation. You need excellent people to make it happen. Technology is there, but you need the people to know how to use the technology. And of course, usually when you come up with a marketplace, any marketplace for the consumers, this is, they help you actually to find the place, a place to rent or a product to buy, whatever, cheaper usually. So your marketplace will become very, very strong if it provides to consumers, customers, also cheaper opportunities than what is today. And one more thing that many marketplaces do not consider is peace of mind and trust. You know, marketplaces are strong and important and successful when providers and consumers do not know each other, and maybe they are not interested so much about getting to know each other. They don't think about marriage. They think much more about one night stand probably. So we come, we find somebody, we buy a product, we buy a service, and we go away. So we don't know the provider, we don't know the customer, we don't know whether we will get paid, we don't know whether we will receive the product, we don't know whether we can return the product, if it will be a defect product or whatever. This is very important value proposition also of the marketplaces, trust and peace of mind. I can trust the marketplace that I can get something from an unknown provider, or I can sell to an unknown customer, and I will not lose my money, I will not lose my time. The marketplace is going to be there to protect me. This is very important value as well. So typically, those are the four value proposition that you can offer to both sides. Of course, depending on the platform, as we discussed, there are different kinds of platforms. There might be different priorities. This is much more about commercial platforms. Then, you came up with a great idea with a strong value proposition, and some of the potential customers probably like it. So you can launch a marketplace that people will like it, probably. But if you don't provide, if you don't deliver what you promise, if you don't provide the customer experience, the great customer experience that you promise, you're going to fail. So you need a strategy to deliver your value proposition. You need, first of all, to come up with a great idea, a strong value proposition to attract providers and customers, but you need also competencies for a great customer experience, because if you don't deliver what you promise, you're going to fail again. And the typical competencies that they are important for digital platforms are, number one, to understand that the customers that you try to attract, the providers and the consumers, they are autonomous. They can come and go anytime they want. So, for example, governance is very, very important to make sure that the best or the good ones join, the bad ones do not stay there. And while maybe you are super ambitious to attract as many as possible, selecting the right ones is many times more important than just attracting. quality of providers or quality of customers is more important than the number of registrations in your platform. Many times you need to invest your time to coach and retain great providers. Sometimes you have new providers in the market that they will come to your platform exactly because they are not established. That's okay. They can provide excellent service to consumers. You can invite them to join. You can accept them, but maybe they need coaching, mentoring, and once they become successful, also helping them so that they stay with you more than the next platform that they will find your competitor. Curation and personalization is very important. Everybody talks about data and AI and machine learning, but few people understand how important it is to have the right people in your organization so that you can provide excellent matching, personalized matching, so that the consumer finds exactly the product that they're looking for, exactly the one provider that they need, exactly the one service, or maybe very small number of excellent choices. We have a lot of choices in marketplaces, but many times are not the right ones. So to have the right data and use it smartly, it's not easy. This makes the difference between a good customer experience and a bad customer experience. And if you want to have positive network effects, you need to provide a good customer experience. Otherwise, you're going to have negative network effects. Everybody who will come in your platform will go away, and the word of mouth is going to be negative about your platform. And also something very important, which again, I was surprised that many people did not get, is you don't run a digital platform like you run your existing business as usual. You don't look to the sales, the business, the problems every 2 or 3 days or every week. You need to check every second, every minute what is going on. If you have a problem with a payment system, you should know in milliseconds and take action in maybe seconds or minutes. So you need different way of managing data. You need action-driven analytics and machine learning. You need to real-time anomaly detection and repair. You need to be there all the time. This is the only way to provide a great customer experience to match what you promise to them, a strong value proposition. Again, there, what is critical to succeed is to have leaders who understand the difference between this business model comparing to the business model they have, and attract and have in place the right talents, whether it is agents, let's say whether they are in their team or they are freelancers or whatever, to have the right ecosystem to help them provide a great experience. That was not the case in most of the organizations. That's very, very important. So you need eventually also to come up with a strategy to provide a strong value proposition. This is your promise to attract some of the customers in the market. That's very important. And to deliver your promise. That's the customer experience. And you know, nobody has unlimited resources. You will have some budget. You can hire few people. at a certain fee or salary. You need to prioritize. You cannot do everything. This is strategy. Strategy is not a list, a wish list of I want to become successful and grow my business and have profits, etc. That's not strategy. Strategy is I'm going to focus on those three important topics that can make the difference for the customers to have a great experience compared to what they have today. You need to understand the customers and you need to be able to focus and to be able to provide this great balance between a strong value proposition and also a great customer experience. Because maybe you can go out there and you can start promising a lot of things, very strong value proposition, but once people come on board, they will get disappointed and maybe they will never come back. So you need to find a good balance of having a strong value proposition, but not over-promising comparing to your capabilities. Leadership is very, very important to succeed. That's what I've seen with all the cases, whether this is for digital platforms, very, very important because it needs a different mindset, or it is also a pipeline business as well. You need leaders that they focus on providing a great experience to the customer first. It's more to prioritize the customer experience rather than your profit today. It's not about retaining good customers in your platform rather than attracting more. This is the way that you build quality. It's many times listening to your customers rather than you talking about how great you are. So being customer focused is very, very important for every business and especially for digital platform. It's about their experience, the customer experience, not your sales and profit. This is going to be the result of a good experience. The other part is you need great resources, great people who collaborate. That's very important and very difficult as well. Whether they are in your group, in the company, or many freelancers, agencies that they work with you, you need to spend time to make sure that all this team work together, they collaborate more, and they fight less. It's not about technology, it's about humans. And of course, all this team, they need to keep learning all the time. And sometimes they will compete and then sometimes they will collaborate, and they need sometimes to focus on experimenting with new ideas. Sometimes they have only to focus to optimize. Sometimes they need to focus on being reliable service, and sometimes they can play with agility. Sometimes we can celebrate maybe failures, but also equally important is to perform, because that's the only way to provide great experience to customers. You need to find this great balance, what I call isoropin, within the organization to achieve excellence and succeed for digital platforms. So the X factor, we start with very clear purpose to find the right balance, the right isoropin between resources and expectations, and also a strategy that will help you to come up with a strong value proposition, but even better customer experience. ideally exceeding your promises. And that's about leaders, having the right leaders to lead this venture, whether it is a digital platform business model or not. So the X factor is to have leaders who can balance, who can isoropin all those different elements that can be different for different business platforms because there are so many different types. So for business context, different business context. So a synopsis of what we said today, we started with platform mania. It's true, digital platforms is a great opportunity to achieve additional business, but also we have to consider reality. We talk about the different forms of platforms, different challenges, different definitions of success, different approaches to succeed. We talked about this hero syndrome to go out and shout that I have a great idea. Many times it's better to do more and shout less. We talked about the importance of having a clear purpose that will help you to find the right balance between expectations and resources. We talked about different competencies that you need, but also methods to craft a strong value proposition, competencies to operationalize, that means to continuously provide a great experience so that you create positive network effects. We discussed about the strategy of isoropin, balancing value proposition versus customer experience, the importance of leaders to how important is their quality to make things happen. So at the end of the day, this X factor is whether we have leaders who master this art of isoropin, the art of finding the right balance, multidimensional balance, asymmetrical balance, 5% here, 90% there, 5% here, 10% over there, and dynamic depending on how the context changes. So that depends on the leader, how well they can read the context, cosmos, how well they understand the time that they have to succeed, chronos, and it depends on their character as well, how they connect the dots. I believe that if you have the right leaders who understand the different approaches that we need for digital platforms, you have very high chances to succeed for digital platforms. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much for your for staying honestly for 90 minutes. Wow. And that's time for questions. If you have any questions, I will be very happy to reply to you. Let's see. You can use the chat or the Q&A to ask any questions. Well, I don't see any questions, and if you don't have any, I think I better not keep you longer. We can close the sessions here. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me either using Emeritus platform or using sending a message to me. We are connected with many among you on LinkedIn. So thank you so much. I hope that was interesting for you and complementary to what you learned already in the course, and looking forward to seeing you again next week. All the best. Bye-bye.